Well, how's everybody doing there? I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change. Here talking about black in America. And uh, maybe we're not, how can I say it? The things we talk about may not pertain to all black people, all white people, all Hispanics. So we're just making some generalizations, and it may resonate some way in there with your experience to some degree. With me coming from, let's say, restricted means, in no way coming from the worst possible socioeconomic scenario that can befall a black person in America. Uh, I definitely wasn't born with a whole lot of affluence and resources. That's probably an understatement. But many of black people are doing well. Plenty of white people aren't doing so well. It's real sad. America, America is just not the community and the unity that I was educated about. Right? If they had if my education had been proper, then uh, I would have made many different choices in life and all that. But there's a conditioning, and education serves actually bigger powers and all that. But what I wanted to say, in regards to like white people not doing well and America's unity, America's just is so rapistic, right? I mean, it's normal for me to feel disenfranchised and struggling in the system and railing and having videos and things like that. But, it's interesting to see the machine chew on its own, be cannibalistic uh, socially and economically. Well, being white, you don't get a pass. I bet you there was a period in this land where the color line was simplified. Probably like slavery times would be a good example. Black, slave, disenfranchised, marginalized, white, privileged, managerial, stuff like that, right? But that, when I'm honest about racism, its application, how uh, it is uh, the phenomenon in real life, how those examples exist, then I can say, you know what, man, it's interesting to see the white power machine devour its own. Very sad, very sad. So we just plug along. We hope that we don't see a major collapse of the system into an anarchy or a extreme kind of fascist state or anything like that. But we plug along and hope that at least if we can't get an overwhelming exercise of altruism and outreach and community, then at least the power will balance, and we won't fall into a period of time where malevolent factors, organizations, personalities get in control and really take over and throw us back into the Stone Age. Um, Very sad. Indeed, very sad. Give me a date. So let's date this because we're off. Our numbers are not off. I didn't maintain the daily thing through the year. It was ambitious. I got more than 2/3 of the way, I think. So now our timeline's broken up a little bit because of school and whatnot. Uh, but Australia is burning, and we got to think now. We had a lot of debate about global warming and stuff, and we had this scientist saying, "Well, it's Earth is going through a natural cycle of elevated temperatures," and then the other scientists, experts said, "No, it's carbon, greenhouse gases, and whatnot." Who cares? Actually, the Earth is on fire right now. Every summer, when the Earth comes around and it exposes those different land masses to drier, hotter temperatures, it burns. Australia is devastated now. And I was just watching. I was watching the news. They're doing commentary on Australia, and there's a silhouette of Australian animal there, kangaroo or whatever. It's just watching the wall of fire. And these poor animals. I mean, the devastation on these scales are enormous. And I say, like, see, my idea. I'm an idealist. I'm a fixer, and I know I'm not the only one with this plan. But you have to have national irrigation sprinkler system. Yeah, to uh, especially on these dry areas, or at least pump them in, desalinate the ocean water, and bring it in. We still got ocean water. The ice caps are melting, so actually our levels are elevating. Water levels. We're losing shoreline. Why not harness that, right? But the powers that would be say, well, it's cost prohibitive, blah blah blah. I don't think so. With the cost of not doing something is higher uh, than actually putting in workable systems. And that's my personal problem in life too. I'll tell you, I see things. Let's fix it and be done with it. But the powers that be drag their feet and they're slow, and their friends are in positions where they benefit from the brokenness of a system. Therefore, things don't get done, and we wait till the crisis happens, and then we spring into action. Right? I saw I don't know, a documentary before where the idea isn't to make systems to fix the problems. It's to make those systems that are um, kinds of compensations for the problem, not to fix the problem. The problem is the same in racism. We could say, well, for one thing, we can't change the attitude of a man's heart or woman's heart. If they're racist, that's their belief, and it's a process to get a person to change their position because it has to be their idea to have it changed, and that takes a long time. Like me, right? It took decades to learn that drugs and alcohol is probably not good for me, and I should stay away. So it's the same thing with racism. For that racist, supremacist, whoever they are, to move away permanently from that position, it's got to kind of be their idea to have done that. That takes time. But this idea where racism is detrimental to the human race, to America, and all that. And America is problematic because we keep defining ourselves, but in our defining ourselves, it further cuts us off from one another. That's an interesting phenomenon beginning to develop in the land. Here at Racial Change, we want to get us a little education, get us a little, plant some seeds so that we can be on the right foot, so that we can make some good decisions, be examples to when we encounter the racist, then there's a better opportunity to, to change their mind, approach their ways, things like that. For Black people, essentially the victims of racism, um, it's going to take a whole movement in the mind of the community. I wonder if we could ever see that same energy of the 60s, right? Will the internet and social media be the environment and platform that helps Black people get in a position to get some movement and to make some changes? Hard to say, because we're Black people are kind of in a comfort zone, so there's no real push for change. In the 60s, a lot of stuff was overt, Jim Crowism and separate fountains where you sit on the bus, all these really overt racist um, attacks and assignments against Black people to keep the Black people and white people divided and stuff like that. That's really toned down a lot, going further underground. But the problem is, for Black people, that there's still the insidiousness of it. When I'm passed over at work, being more qualified, educated, experienced, ready with solutions and all that, and these watching little young white kids and other young people, non-Black, get the resources and everything they need over me, and I'm answerable to them. Well, that's a problem. And Black people, hopefully we can get into that space where we're more sensitive to that and can begin bringing some resistance. It wasn't, listen, my education came at near the end of 2018, where I ran into some information, got some education, and now I'm a better place to be proactive to get something, right? Quid pro quo is what Dr. Anderson would say on that note. But I got more tomorrow in my first few minutes of these programs, but let's get into today's text and lesson and stuff. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. I've read 3 of his books. We are back to getting into his work. Maybe for the rest of our time, we'll see. Probably revisit Uncle Tom's Cabin at some point. I don't know. But 3 of the works I read that informs our time here. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. And you can get these books at powernomics.com, and he's easy to find on the internet. He's here on YouTube. So check him out. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #us2 symbol. You'll find black women having their community and supporting one another. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, more black networking. And of course, there's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. Right? It's the internet. If you can't find your flavor on the internet, do what I did. Just start your own, get your grassroots going. I even got another grassroots project going. Well, let's just grassroots the place with some sensible, good, creative, productive stuff. If you got a business mind, go check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School. TheBlackBusinessSchool.com. Oh, and finally, always got to plug this for you, some fictional talking points about racism and slavery that can really get you some conversations going. Check out Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Today, I tried to, if you've been with us, especially at the beginning, you know I have issues trying to find the first, a black person being the first human being to do something. Well, that's tough to find because most of the first things that black people have done is just being a black representative of what white people have been doing for years and have monopolized and mastered, like being an educator at Harvard, flying into space, oh, um, graduating medical school, right? That's a black person trailblazing in the on the white path. It's already well uh, trodden and whatnot. And boy, look, here's the first black person to vet the black. I don't like that at all. That's not a black first. That's blacks navigating white um, white environment. You know, you got to qualify that black first. So most of the black first that I find going to be in entertainment, probably maybe sports, breaking records and stuff like that. Yeah, then you get it. Today's no different. So just want to qualify my black first. It's not just the first black person in space or first black person to work at NASA. No, that doesn't qualify at all. They're commendable achievements, but not a first in any shape or shape or form. Today we're going to talk about a piano player named Eric Lewis. Hopefully I can go back, maybe add some sound to these videos or something. But he's a piano player, born May 13th, 1973, from Camden, New Jersey, and which is commendable to have that town on his resume, because Camden is just east of Philadelphia, just across the Delaware River, and Camden is not known for its producing a lot of hopefuls, right? I grew up in that part of the country, and there's some places that you don't associate with a whole lot of black success. And so for him to come out of there being a product of maybe challenging beginnings and environments, that's pretty commendable. And so we like that. Jazz pianist, right? But he's very. You look at his videos. He's here all over YouTube, easy to find. Eric Lewis, and I think about him as being kind of a modern day Art Tatum. Art Tatum was a blind virtuoso on the piano, and incredible. Uh, the piano was almost my first instrument. That's another story. Eric's professional name is Elu. Kind of compressed his first and last name. You would they list him as a crossover. His genre he calls rock jazz, and so he's taken some rock tunes and covering them. Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner and other rock groups. They take their music, put it on the piano, jazz it up, and it's good stuff. It's original. The way he's got an intensity, he's got an energy and some power in his hands that is nearly unrivaled. Got incredible left hand skills. The accompaniment hand is dazzling. He uses the instrument, all of the instrument. Not in that he's probably not very original, like plucking the strings directly, banging on the strings directly, combining pedal techniques with being inside the the piano and playing melodies outside with the other hand, things like that. The idea he takes the instrument, even some of the acoustical possibilities with tapping on the legs and other pieces of the piano for some percussion and things like that. Good guy. You find him covered, like I said, Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama, Georgia on My Mind. He's covered Michael Jackson's um, music. Of course, like if you want to make a name for yourself, you go ahead and cover some of the popular tunes of the day and make some money. You can't argue with that. But his fans include the Obamas, Natalie Cole's, um, other people. He's played a lot. What's interesting, how he stood out to me. I forget how I even stumbled on to his material, but he is. I was going through music school myself a couple of years ago, and you would think that in music school you hear about the latest trends, biggest names, stuff like that, and like it's interesting. He was kind of having his heyday, his moment. A lot of artists have, have just that arc, right? They ascend, stay on top for a little while, and come down. It's a very natural process, and it's interesting that I'm in jazz circles and all that, and his music and his name never crossed my radar, and I wonder if racism could have been a part of a lack of exposure to his material. Right now, because I got in contact, I could engaged this material overall racism after that experience. So I don't know either way, but it is interesting to think and say, is this lack of exposure just another example, another level of racism? Because I heard new names, new acts, new possibilities on various instruments all over the place. I'm immersed in the school of music. So it's natural. So you think you're here, I'm thinking I'm hearing the best and the brightest, right? And that's not so. So he having a black individual kind of slip through the cracks, so to speak, is disturbing in this way because he's really good. I mean, cream of the crop, like someone I would love to buy his music, gravitates towards, put it on my MP3 player, things like that. So, not only do I call him a first in his creativity, but I'm also acknowledging how racism can be a factor in exposing us to um, the best, but exposing us to some good possibilities and good stuff out there. Not just music, but think about other services, products that are around, and because of the habituation of racism and discounting, disregarding black participation and whatnot, how habitual that is in a racist society, how we skip over and we miss the best and most brightest of possible. Happened to me at work, happened to me at another organization. I said, we should, I gave some suggestions about a process, right? And I was dismissed ceremoniously. And, went away, with my hat in my hand. Oh, well, they said it's not possible, so I guess they're right. All shucks. A year and a half, 2 years later, here comes the director trotting out these great, brilliant ideas that I forwarded a year and a half, 2 years before, saying, they've got this great plan with great suggestion from uh, another white counterpart, younger, female, everything I'm not, but her, coming from her, it was the uh, right idea. So, well, consequently, I told my director about my feelings, and I did not last much longer in that space after I spoke my mind. She needed to hear that too. Same way with Eric Lewis. Well, what other bright talent, musicians, engineers, doctors, managers, business minds are not um, visible to us because racism is just so crowded in. And it's just hard to penetrate the ceiling. Women talk about a glass ceiling, and other groups have ceilings because in America we discriminate and judge in that way, right? Unless you pay and um, compromise enough to break through. In Alex Haley's Roots, he talks about one of his uncles, an Uncle Tom, not Uncle Tom's Cabin. I think his name was Tom, but he was a blacksmith, and so he's starting to get white business, right? And so out of the blue, some white man says, "Yeah, you can do your business, but you have to do it through me." And doing the monopoly and stuff like that. So Tom ends up putting his blacksmith business on the carriage and doesn't have to worry about that. today we can hold our ground and tell the white power where to go with that idea. Eric Lewis, he's a great pianist, qualifies, he just gets in there as a black first, but understands some of the other overarching racial issues that, whereas uh, large portions of the community may not have heard of him because of racism in the country and how being black creates another layer of challenge to be exposed properly in the nation. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change. I will see you soon. Make sure you come back and see us next time. That's day 300 out of the way in the home stretch here. Bye-bye.